recording. Okay. So thank you everybody so much for joining. We're really lucky to be joined today by Ben Perry, who's going to be sort of navigating the interviews. We also have Jill Fortin, who has had a Whipple and is a pancreatic cancer patient. Lori Bottrell, same thing, Whipple patient. And oops, there we go. Somebody else joined. Whipple patient and pancreatic cancer patient. And then we have Dean Green as well, who is also Whipple patient and pancreatic cancer survivor. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Ben. We'll get into more thorough introductions. Thought it would be nice to hear from our speakers though. So thank you so much, Ben. I'll let you take it away.
Hi guys, great to have you all here again. Pretty excited about this. I guess as we've said before, we're calling ourselves Whipple Warriors. I'll give a brief introduction of myself. It was October of 21. I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I found out because I was turning yellow and I had quite a bit of pain in my back for quite some time. Wasn't quite sure what it was, and stomach issues. And actually it was October 22nd. They said, oh, you're eligible for surgery. It's not that large. It's not around any major vessel, so we can do surgery. But a month later it had spread to my liver and they said you can't have surgery. So I changed my diet and focused on just getting healthier. I had 8 rounds of the gemcitabine. So basically they put me on the palliative care chemo. But I was fortunate enough, after 8 rounds I was able to have the surgery. We shrunk the lesions on my liver, and I was able to have the Whipple surgery June 17th. And if you know what today's date is, that's a month away. I'll be 2 years post-surgery. Next weekend, I get my results from my last CT scan. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm 95% sure it's still negative. So no evidence of disease, about 1.5 years out. So, or I guess 2 years as of next month. So quite happy about that. And yeah, there's still some little bit of battles every now and then, but you know what, as I say to many people, I'm still here. So quite happy to be still hanging around and doing what we're doing today. So we'll start off with my friend Dean. Dean has been on our group. She was the very first person. I believe it was November 7th of 27, something like that, on a Monday night. There was like 4 or 5 of them, and then the rest of us have been falling in place as time went on. So Dean, I'm going to send it over to you to introduce yourself.
I'm Dean, Toronto, Canada. I have the Whipple surgery. I was diagnosed with cancer, pancreatic cancer, and May of 2021, have the Whipple, November 30th of 2021, and I'm still here after that surgery.
All right. I know that Dean, in our questions later, she's going to give a little bit more thorough introduction. So we'll slide it on over to our train engineer, Gilles. Gilles going to introduce himself.
Hey there, Gilles Fortin from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. And yes, I am a retired locomotive engineer for CNR. My symptoms first occurred on September 24th, 2022. And that was my stool had turned gray and my urine was almost like an orange color. And of course I had jaundice, which I didn't even notice when I went to the hospital. The nurse said, "Have you always been this yellow?" And I said, "Geez, I didn't know I was." So anyway, what happened there was I ended up staying in the hospital for a few days, and I got a patient transfer to Kingston, Ontario, which is only 45 minutes down the road. And they put a stent in, and that cleared everything up. But while they did that, they of course took x-rays and whatever, PET scan, or not a PET scan, but a CT scan. And on September 29th, that was when I got the stent in, and then I got COVID while I was in the hospital, so that wasn't cool. And so then after that, I went to see to Kingston and saw the surgeon, Dr. Nanzi, and 10 days after that, I was getting a Whipple surgery. He said, "It's very aggressive and you got to make up your mind right now or get your stuff together." So I said, well, where do I sign? So we did, and that was that. So we yeah, did the surgery, and everything's doing pretty good right now. So yeah, we'll get into it a little deeper later when you have questions. Okay, thanks very much.
Jill, I can't imagine getting COVID in the middle of like the start of that. That would be
Crazy.
just, that's a good kick in the backside.
Yeah, and I was yeah, and they did the surgery anyway. Even though I had COVID, they told me afterwards I didn't even know I had it. So I thought, wow.
I know for me, 2 weeks before my surgery, I had kind of thought I had broken some ribs, and I didn't. I didn't want to tell them, but I didn't break them, but they were quite sore, and they had said afterwards that if you, yeah, you should have told us. So basically,
Easy.
all right. So the last one on our board to introduce herself today is Lori.
Hi there. I'm calling in from Toronto, and I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer back in April 2023. Very similar symptoms that you described there, Sheila, and a similar experience. Presented with some vague symptoms for about 4 to 5 months before being diagnosed, that I was getting checked out with my GP. Some sort of tummy issues, and then radiated into the back area. Changes to stools. I was having rising liver enzymes, which actually my doctor was monitoring quite closely. And when it came to some were really high, I said, you know what, I think you should just go check into ER and see what's going on. So that's what I did. And while I was in the hospital there for a couple of days, I had a stent put in, which took away a lot of the pain that I was feeling. It was a big relief after that. They also did a ultrasound CT scan, and then that's where they found the tumor on the head of the pancreas. So at that point, it was locally advanced, and there was some wrapping around the SMV and a bit of touching on the SMA. So that continued throughout while I was on chemo. But we started a chemo plan, which we'll talk about that more in depth in the conversation. But that's kind of sort of my background of how I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
All right, thank you, Lori. When you mentioned the back, it reminded me of the day I was working. I'm an arborist, or was, and still am. I still practice a bit, and I was at one of my customers who's a physiotherapist, acupuncturist, and I was telling her about this back pain, and she showed me all these stretching exercises, like to help with that back pain, because it's a tight hamstring, and I didn't know I had this back pain for probably close to a year. And didn't know what it was. Finally, after I was diagnosed and everything was taken care of, I called her and we'll send her a message, and we chatted, and I told her about it. She says, oh my God, these are things I'm supposed to know, these things, so that's great. Dean, did you want to, sorry,
sorry,
Lori.
I just want to jump on that as well, because that's similar experience. I was losing weight, which it wasn't a lot, but I was also starting to go back to the gym. So I thought, oh, this is working. This is awesome. And then, but it's like, it's not awesome when when you are dropping a considerable amount of weight, right? So similar thing, right? And that, things that you just kind of write off as just, maybe something else.
Yeah, the weight loss, I wasn't trying to lose weight. I started off at 198, and I was down to 165, within maybe 4 or 5 months or less. And it's like, I'm not doing any extra or whatever. I'm still eating. Didn't realize that most of it was coming out on the white seat. Dean, did you want to add any more to your introduction there, or are you good for now?
I was losing weight as usual, too. And my stool was white and my pee was yellow, just like Jill, and I was yellow too. So my back pain was almost for a year too, and I didn't know what my back pain was. I thought I was going through menopause and everything with my back pain, but my back pain was from the cancer.
Yeah, I found in the mornings, like I'd have a coffee, and initially I thought it was my coffee that was causing some of my issues. I would have 3, 4, 5 bathroom breaks before I could go out the door. My staff would show up, we're ready to go to work, and I just, excuse me, I gotta go again and again and again. And so I quit milk, I quit this, I quit all this stuff, and nothing was happening. So finally, after my wife telling me, listen, you gotta go get it checked out. And the thing that really sent me in, like the following day, was one of my customers. I saw him, and he's like, Ben, you're awful yellow. And I was like, what? So I went home and asked Karen. She said, oh my God, I never noticed. And sure enough, yeah, that's how she went.
People was trying to tell me that I was yellow too, but I wasn't listening. Is when I went to my doctor, my family doctor, and he did some blood work. He told me that my enzyme, my CA19 was way off. At that time I didn't know what he was talking about. So he told me to go to the hospital right away, and I went. And when I went to the hospital, the nurse looked at me and said, "You are so yellow, you have jaundice." And I was in emerge for the whole day. And when the doctor finally come to me, he said, they sent me for some tests. And the doctor said, you have to go for emergency surgery. So I'm like, what? What emergency surgery? He said, we have to get a stent in you. And then after they put in the stent, that's when my pee and my poop clear up. And
Yeah.
I remember the doctor who put in my stent, he said, I look over your pancreas and your pancreas is black. So you have to go for biopsies to see what's going on. When I take the biopsy now, they tell me that I have cancer on my pancreas. My whole world shut down at that moment when the doctor said I have cancer until this day.
Yeah. So for those of you joining in who's not been in on our Monday night meetings, just to let you know, the pee poop stories are quite we're quite used to them. It's just a reoccurrence. We talk about it pretty much every week. All right, we're gonna, Jill, unless you want to talk in about any more of your symptoms, or would that be going to be answered in some of the questions we're going to go through?
I don't know, maybe they could be answered, but I've had a sore back since 1986, so that was not a symptom for me. But I realize now that it probably was. I just didn't know it was there. And
Okay.
my diet didn't change. I had no weight loss or anything like that. Those were the only 3 symptoms that I had. And yeah, I didn't realize I was that sick. And yeah, as soon as they tell you, yeah, you got pancreatic cancer, it is a slap on the face, and your whole life changes from that moment on.
Okay. Well, Jill, seeing that I still have you online there, I'm going to ask you our first question. What, I don't know, Aaron, if you wanted to put it up, or I'll just ask, go ahead. What was the most challenging part of the Whipple recovery? So Jill, you're on the.
Okay. Well, there were several things, but I'd say that the most is the diet from the time you eat, because that all changes. I mean, it just becomes there's so many things you can't eat and so many things you look at that you'd like to eat, but you're stuck with whatever works for you. And no matter how much Creon I take, a red, big nice steak isn't going to work, or a hamburger or anything like that. I'm pretty much chicken and fish, and that's it for me. And I know other people can eat different things. Like Steve said, he had Chinese food and a rolling rotten beer. Well, that just wouldn't work for me. That's I couldn't eat that. So that from the time it goes in to the time it comes out, it's yeah, it's a real I don't know, like I have to put a system together in order for it to work. And some days it changes for no apparent reason, and other days it just runs smooth. So I don't know. That's the biggest thing for me is what I put in my body as to how it comes out.
I find very similar. It's not quite day to day for me. I try to keep the same actually kind of foods for breakfast, and then dinner I stick with certain kind of foods as well. But as sorry for those of you who don't know, Creon is just one of the I think there's 4, maybe 5 different types of digestive enzymes, 3, and once you have the Whipple surgery, sometimes we don't produce enough enzymes to digest our food, and some people actually turn diabetic. Okay, so we'll roll on. Same question. We're going to go to Lori. Lori, what was the most challenging part of the Whipple surgery recovery?
Yeah, I had my surgery just in February 13th. So it's been a couple of 3.5, 4 months now, I guess, going on to. So really what I've been dealing with daily is, yeah, fortunately, diarrhea. It's pretty chronic. A lot of bowel movements a day, which are, as diarrhea is. So I'm, on a diet of pretty plain diet, but now and again I will gravitate away from it with a craving, but just because I'm still having it. So I'm sticking to the diet, but it hasn't had any improvements. And I'm doing a lot of Imodium and Lomatil, and now we've introduced codeine to the mix. Yeah, the surgeon's still, he's optimistic. He said, it's still early in the game here, so it's okay. You're doing all right. Just try to stick with it. So that's my major challenge that I'm working through right now. And it's not just the physical piece of it, but the mental and emotional, because it really does impact your day-to-day life. Like, I mean, you need to know where you're going, that there's accessibility to facilities, that there's some things you just are not going to be doing right now because of that. So that can weigh on you. That can get a bit depressing now and again, but you just gotta soldier on through it. So
I definitely can agree with the availability part, where I tell people that when my body says you need to go to the bathroom, like, you need to go. There's no, I can hold off for a few more minutes. It's not like yeah. So I usually make sure that before I leave the house that, like, everything's fine. And then when I'm out and about, I don't eat too much. And there's certain foods will trigger it, but I know that it will trigger it, but I still want to live. Like, I can't just eat 6 different things for the rest of my life. So I want to live. So if it triggers it and it's not too bad, then I'll take it. But like you said, I always make sure I'm close to a facility. And if I had known you were taking your cat, I would have had a question for your kitty cat there.
Okay, make them back.
All right. So Dean, so what was the most challenging part of the Whipple recovery for you, my dear?
The most challenging part is my diet. Unlike Jill, I can't eat certain food anymore. And when I just had my Whipple, when I eat, my food just sit on my stomach and would not digest. When I belch the food I eat. I couldn't stand the smell of the food. So for now, I mostly eat chicken and fish. That's what I eat now. That's what can keep my stomach going. I cannot go out and eat a Chinese food like Jill. I can't eat a steak. I cannot drink coffee. I cannot drink hot chocolate. Food is the most challenging part of my Whipple surgery right now.
Yeah, well, I agree from my point of view, but as I say many times to Karen, and sometimes I'll say, Karen, and you know what? She goes, yeah, I know, Ben, you're still here. And it's true. I just say, you know what, but I'm still here. So that's,
but I'm still here, yes.
Exactly. And I've heard you say it many times too. One of the things when we talk about our bowel movements many times, initially that I would break wind. We'll try to keep it nice here. And I'd say, oh, excuse me, I have cancer. So all of a sudden, Karen, my wife, starts saying, oh, excuse me, my husband has cancer. So then a little bit further on down the road, my friend Nicole, she fluffs and she goes, oh, excuse me, my best friend's husband has cancer. So you
yes,
guys
but
want
when you
pass that on.
When you pass the gas, your stomach feel free too.
Yes.
So it's okay. Yeah, so when you go to the bathroom, your stomach just feel free from everything.
Yeah.
You're better to bear the shame than the pain.
Yeah. My grandfather used to say there's more room on the outside of me than there is on the inside of me. All right. Does anyone want to add on to that, or are we pretty good to go move on?
Well, I have no issues with diarrhea, never did. I guess the Creon works for me. I've heard other people say that if they adjust the Creon, then their diarrhea went away. But I never had that problem ever. Right from the start, never had that problem. I have more trouble the other way.
I have that problem before, and I have more Creon, and it went away too.
Good.
Yeah, I do. I take Creon. My surgeon just recently wanted me to up it to double it. So normally I was taking 2 to 3 with meals, and I was doing this after I got the stent put in last year. So I've been on Creon for quite a while, and it worked great last year. Post-surgery, I'm hopefully it's still doing its job getting the nutrients that I'm supposed to be getting from the food, but I'm still losing a bit of weight. But yeah, I've upped the Creon to double So I was taking like 4 to 6. But then recently, with discussion with one of the nurses on the team who specializes more in this area with food and nutrition, with the dietitian also that I have, she scaled me back to what I was taking, 2 to 3. She says it's just too much for your weight. You should don't let's
Are
dial
you
it back.
Are you taking 25s, Lori?
25s, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, we know that there's a struggle getting either it could be 25s today or 35s. I know the last time I went, the first time I started off in 25s, then I went in one time, they didn't have them. They gave me 35s and I found, oh, 35s is great. But then I go in another time, they didn't have 25s or 35s, so they gave me 10s. So now, like if I have a serving of potato chips for a snack, I take 110. And I find that with the 10s and now I got 10s and 25s, but I can kind of know how much I'm eating and I know what I should be taking. So I'm getting much better at it. I know it's like a year and a half out. So that's a good thing. The biggest problem I have is when I have greasy food, I find it doesn't get digested well and it just kind of has a one-way path out. So I found I did find some other type of a digestive enzyme that helps breaking down the fats. So yeah. All right. So I think we've maybe have covered most of that question, unless you guys have anything else to answer there.
Yes, I just want to say, Ben, after Whipple, my cancer come back in my lungs and in my bone. So right now I'm on chemo treatment. I just want to add that in too.
Yeah. So you guys don't know, Dean is a trooper today. She just had chemo on Thursday, and starting tomorrow, she's sadly she starts to feel a little bit worse tomorrow. So we're glad to have her here with us today. So thank you very much, Dean. So not only that, I made her get up early to have a pre-interview this morning at 9 o'clock her time. So thank you again, Dean.
You're welcome, Ben.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next question we have here. What surprised you the most about the surgery? I can tell you myself, I'll go first here. What surprised me the most was how big of a surgery it was. I didn't know when I went in, like I knew what they were doing, but the like how in depth this surgery is, apparently it's one of the largest surgeries known to man, and I didn't know that. I was sitting down and the nurses were saying, oh, you're doing really well, and the doctors were saying you're doing really well, and I was just thinking, well, no, you say that to everyone. You're like a hairdresser. They say you have such lovely hair, so you keep going back. Well, I don't have hair anymore, but so they're just saying like that to keep you positive, and the doctor said, no, you don't realize this is one of the largest surgeries known to man. So they're anywhere from 5 hours to 10 hours, give or take. I unfortunately had one of the main blood vessels going through my liver was on the opposite side of where it should be. So I'm like only 3% of the people on the planet are kind of like myself. So it went from a 6-hour surgery to a 10-hour surgery. But obviously I was out for the whole thing, didn't know anything about it. Initially, the next day, because they had me on narcotics, I forget the name of it at the moment. I was seeing ghosts and shadows and creatures, and it was terrible. That was probably the worst amount. So when they dialed that down, we had to wait a while before they gave me some a different pain meds. So for a little bit there, I had no pain meds other than Tylenol. So that would be, I guess, the most surprising thing for me was how big of a surgery it was. So I'm going to slide to Dean. Seeing that you were speaking last, you're up again. What was that? What did you find was the most surprise you about the surgery?
The biggest part of the surgery is when my doctor came into the room with my extended family members and tell us your tumor wrap around tiny blood vessel. We don't sure you're gonna make it through this surgery, but I made it through this surgery. I'm here today.
That's
And
great.
my surgery was supposed to take 4.5 hours. The doctor said it takes 7.5 hours. And I find out that, in all of this, I'm still here.
There. Yeah, Dean, that's great to hear. I like that. This is why they call us the Whipple Warriors, right? Because it is a pretty intense surgery. All right. I know it just kind of gives me a little shiver there. Um, Lori, what did you find was the most what surprised you the most about this surgery?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what you both are saying, just the complexity of it. Like you read about it, you watch little videos about it, and then but to really to sink in on the complex procedure and the surgery and what the surgeons and nurses are doing in there while you're on the table is just is pretty overwhelming. Um, so I thought, yeah, I think that was probably one of the biggest surprises because after that, I thought the healing and incision healing and just like on the outside was going really well. And then I think, oh my God, but what they've done to the inside and still recovering from that. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest challenges. But then, a week after when I got the pathology report back from the surgery, it showed that there were positive margins, so they weren't able to get all the cancer out, and there was quite a few lymph nodes that tested positive. So that really just threw me for such a loop because I was just not expecting that report at all. I was stunned. I was shocked. I was like, this has got to be a mistake. This cannot be my pathology report because, like 2 months before, everything was stable. Everything was cool. Everything looked the same, shrunk a bit. It was all looking like it was in good shape, but obviously it was a different story. So where I am now, I had a recent scan and they do see that it has come back on the pancreas, 2 small tumors there, and a node on my lung that that has shown up. So I'll be starting chemo back on Monday, June 3rd, I think it is. So in a week, I'll be back on FOLFIRINOX.
I'm sorry to hear that, Lori. That's quite I guess it's quite the shock to hear it at times when you're sitting there and they tell you these things. Unfortunately for me, I was the margins were great, and there was 3 of the 29 lymph nodes had cancer, or actually they said small, minute amount of cancer, and so I was quite lucky. Gilles, what surprised you the most about the Whipple surgery? Oh, before I go on here, I just wanted to, sorry, Gilles, just don't mean to cut you off. I just did a little bit of research there today, and I kind of knew that they had done some kind of a Whipple surgery. Whipple is from Dr. Whipple, but there was 3 other surgeons who they were doing these surgeries, but they were doing them one at a time. They would maybe take a piece of the pancreas today, and then a couple of weeks later they would go into the duodenum, and then they would do a little bit of the stomach, and then he did similar stuff, but he would do 2 pieces at a time. And then so the first one he had done with it, only 2 surgeries, was in 1935, and then in 1940 was the very first Whipple surgery ever done, where he did it all at once. So just to give a little bit of a info for people in the background. Yes, Jill, sorry there. What surprised you the most about this Whipple surgery? Did we lose you? Are you muted? You're muted, Jill. That's all good.
Here we go. Okay, so pretty much the same as everybody else. It was the amount that they had to take out. It's staggering when you think of it. I myself did not want to know anything about the surgery before I went in. I just thought they know what they're doing. I don't have to see this. And I talked to my brother-in-law about it, and he said, I watched the video. He says, you don't want to look at that before you go in. I said, okay, then I won't. But I'm going to back it up a little bit. When I was sitting in with the surgeon, the pathologist came in and she said, and I'm surprised she said this, she said, we've never seen anything like this before. So, and I thought, well, this can't be good. And the doctor looked at her, or the surgeon, he said, Jesus, he said, I haven't seen this before either. So I said, well, geez, then we better get to work, So anyway, but everything that they took out, like even after the surgery, the surgeon said we had to go a little deeper than we thought we would. So we took out more, and I thought, well, Jesus, I could tell that because my ribs were showing and everything was sunk. It was like getting all your teeth pulled, and everything sinks in. So it was big, and it was 8.5 hours, 3.5 recovery. And like you, Ben, I was seeing all kinds of weird things,
Oh,
spiders, millions of spiders. I hate
oh,
spiders, so maybe that's why. And coming out of, I could see a light, a white light when I was coming out, I guess. I thought I was dead and I was just coming back to life. But I could hear voices and I could see a white light, and I was climbing up a rope of spiders, and I was trying to get to the top so I could get out. And even after that, I saw spiders all over the room all the time, and I could hear things. I was having like dreams inside of a dream. I could see myself sitting on the floor, and I cursed the nurses for not looking after me and trying to kill me because I thought but they said you did good coming out. So I thought, well, that's weird. I just didn't
oh.
feel
Well, the blanket behind you kind of looks like a web, so maybe you had that with you,
that.
and that's where the spiders came from. You know,
Could
uh,
be.
I remember that the surgeon, I had asked her. She said, "I'll be taking pictures, for education." I said, "Oh, can I have them? Can I see one?" Da da da. So she came in like the next day after surgery, and I was stoned, like, and I was like, what?" And I said, "I can't see anything." Didn't realize it. I didn't have my glasses on, so I get my glasses on, and I still couldn't see anything. But the um, when you talk about you didn't want to know what the surgery was, so no one really had asked. Well, someone did ask me, like, are you worried about the surgery? And I said, well, I'm going to tell you what my brother said. He went in to have a surgery, and they asked him, what do you worry about it? And he said, well, not really. He said, because if I don't wake up, I don't know I don't wake up. It's
True.
everybody else who's left who knows I didn't wake up from it, right? But my surgeon said, because I was initially stage 4, when I went in to see her the second time around, she looked at me and she said, Ben, I honestly never, ever expected to see you in here. So, because they were quite shocked that the lesions on my liver had shrank. So, well, thank God I tricked them, we'll say. Okay, we're going to move on to our last question. And Lori, you're going to be up first. Did you do any neoadjunctive chemo or chemo after your surgery? Like immediately after, not now where you are now, but
Yeah.
immediately after.
Yeah. So initially the treatment plan was back last in May when we started was to go on FOLFIRINOX for 12 rounds. So I did 13 rounds, an extra one at the end there that was scheduled. So I might as well just went for it. We were still waiting to see if we would be doing surgery or not, if the tumor board was going to proceed with it or not. So during that time when I was doing the chemo, I was, mentally preparing for, I guess, the surgery, and physically preparing, trying to stay in shape and to continuing being active as much as I could. During that time, developed neuropathy though with the chemo, which is often the case with one of the drugs in the mix. So we reduced that probably around the 8th, 9th cycle, started reducing that. What is it, oxypaltin? I can't recall how you pronounce that. And by the time we got to around the 12th, 13th cycle, that was pretty much like 50% because of the neuropathy. So the chemo during that time last year, I tolerated, I think, overall pretty well. I had a little bit of some digestive stuff at the beginning, some diarrhea, some constipation, but that my body seemed to figure it out, within a couple of weeks. And then it was just overall fatigue, a lot of fatigue, like around the, 4th to 6th day after the treatment. Then usually the second week, things were coming back up, energy levels were coming back up. So it was like, a week of feeling pretty crappy and then a week of coming back up for it. So, and the goal with the chemo was to shrink the tumor for surgery. So it did its job and it did shrink it somewhat. So yeah, I did that. And then after surgery, I didn't have chemo right after the surgery, but of course now I'll be starting again with the new growth.
So your surgery was in February. So
Yeah.
I think for me, my surgery was in June, and then I started up to June. So I started up again in August. I just got hit with the 4Fs, the FOLFIRINOX.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll jump into that a little bit. We'll get into that in a second. Okay, Jill, what? I actually was jumping to the 5th question here. Sorry. Did you have any chemo afterwards? Are you on mute again, my friend? Yes, you are.
Damn computers. All my chemos after surgery. There was nothing prior to it. They just jumped right in with a knife and went to work.
Okay.
My chemo seems to be different than everybody else's. I hear all this FOLFIRINOX and whatever. Mine was called EPOC, and that consisted of 3 different drugs in a bag, which I wore for all day, like 24 hours a day. I was hooked up to a machine called a CAD pump, and that just delivered they had a I don't know, I'm lost for words. But anyway, it went 23 hours and it just dispensed the chemo, and I had to wear this thing. I couldn't go very far from the hospital. I couldn't get back to Belleville, which is 45-minute drive. I had to stay in a hospital for 4 days and wear this. Every day I went in and they changed the bag and they changed the pump. So I just had to wear it. And on, excuse me, on the 5th day, we did that for 4 days. So I just had to stay nearby, and you have to bath with it on and everything. You couldn't shower because of the pump, but anyway, it was uncomfortable to wear, but it was necessary to do. And on the 5th day, I took 2 hours of a different kind of chemo, and then they sent me home for 10 days. Or no, I'm sorry, but for the next 10 days after I got home, I took injections to keep my white blood cells up. Grostafil it was called. And then I had a couple of days off, and then we just started the whole thing over again, and we did 6 cycles of that, and then sent me home and said, we'll see you. And that was done within the month after I got the Whipple surgery. They give you enough time for, I guess, to heal a little bit. But after that, they said, we'll see you back here in about a month's time, and we'll get going with the stem cell recovery, or transplant, sorry. And
Okay.
so then everything was good up, and then we just so I've just celebrated about 13 months last month, and cancer free, and I have absolutely no issues at all with the cancer. The oncologist said, when we're done, it's going to be aggressive, but when we're done with you, you will be cancer free when you leave here, and she was right.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. All right, Dean, I'm assuming you did have some chemo after your surgery. I don't think it would have been immediately, but it would have been down the road a bit.
A month after, I have FOLFIRINOX, which I had before surgery, and that's so I'll take a big chunk of my appetite away. And like Lori, I was fatigued like for maybe 6 or 7 days in a row. I was really fatigued because my treatment was every 2 weeks. After going, and after that fatigue, I would feel better. I would get back a little appetite where I could eat some oatmeal or something. Everything I eat is have to be curried chicken, curry something, have to be curry. So yes, I have 6 rounds of FOLFIRINOX.
Afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, afterwards.
I had 8 rounds of the gemcitabine prior to it because I was stage 4. And then after surgery, I had 5 rounds of the FOLFIRINOX. I found that gemcitabine for me, other than making me tired, and I remember many times pushing through the tiredness just because I didn't. And I tell people before, if I choose to be lazy, I'm okay with that. But if I have to be lazy because I'm sick, I do not like that. So I always push myself through that.
I always push myself too.
More than one occasion, yeah. And like more than one occasion, I just, yeah, for sure. And then with the FOLFIRINOX, it didn't matter what I did or ate. It took quite a bit out of me. But again, when you're feeling bad, you have a choice to do nothing and complain, or push hard and complain. And you know what, I mastered that, is kind of how I looked at it.
And also, Ben, with the FOLFIRINOX, I was just skin and bone. You let me lose a lot of weight.
Yeah.
I was 95 pounds. Nothing in my closet fit me, but I did not go out and buy clothes because my doctor always tell me, you're going to put on back your weight a little bit. You're going to put on back your weight. Maybe you don't put on back the full weight that you were body weight, but you're going to put it on.
Well, I've found since then that, well, right after surgery, like the week after, I was down to 150 and I started off at 198. And then I got back. Right now I'm about just about 163, 64. And for the longest time, I'm stuck at 162 and I'm doing everything I can. But I do find, as we talked earlier, that it's the creon. If we don't have enough, we're in the bathroom too much, and then if we have just the right amount, it's going to help you put weight back on. So
Mm.
anyone else want to add into that, Jill or
Yeah, I was
Corey?
quite tired. I was good for the first I think couple of rounds and doing whatever. I felt normal, and then on the third round, then that's when everything just fell apart on me. I was finding myself in bed most of the time. But yeah, did get up. I live close to a park, and so I'd go for walks, but I do a little bit around the yard and then just build it up and maybe around the yard and down the driveway. And I got like about I don't know 100-yard driveway to get to my house. So I walk down there and then just walk around the park a little bit, and then set a goal. Every day you do a little bit more, and then it ended up I was doing 30-minute walks and but really tired. I still have a couple of naps every day. I don't have I just want to. I don't know if I've gotten used to it or I kind of like it now. Never napped in my life, but I enjoy doing it now. And
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned set a goal or go a little bit further the next day. Dean can attest to this. Is that there was times she was talking, I go for a walk and I can't make it back, and we said to her, this was in our group meeting, just maybe go halfway and then walk back, and then the next day just go a little bit past that and then come back, and so on and so on. I remember quite a few times like pushing myself. One day, as I said earlier, I was an arborist, and the day before the last storm came in, I think it was Hurricane Fiona, someone had called me up and said, I have a tree, it's sitting on my neighbor's roof, and it needs to come down. And I had looked at it a few days before, and he said, no, I want to take it down. And I had the full Florinox, and on that Thursday or something, anyway, it was when I was ill, after the chemo. So it took me an hour to leave the house in the morning. I had someone to come with me to help me out, and I just said, I can do this. And then, oh no, I can't. Yes, I can. No, I can't. So I get there, I get on site, I'm getting on my safety gear and I'm getting suited up, and it took me 20 minutes to do that. And I get into the tree, but as soon as I started and I got into the tree and I started to do the work I had to do, I forgot that I was sick completely. And I just focused at the job I had to do, the task at hand. And I just boom, boom, and I got it all down. And I honestly never thought about being sick, cancer, nothing about what I had to do. When I finished, I'm taking off my gear, changing back into my civvies. And the guy comes over and says, you did that when you had chemo on and cancer and you're sick. He says, I'd hate to see how quickly you could do it with the gear off or without chemo. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sick. And I started to feel sick just like that. So I'm just kind of saying that I think sometimes our mind can do a lot for us if we just use it, so
Yes,
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, I was just going to add to that as well. During the time when I was on chemo last year, and a lot of times throughout the year, participated in a lot of like guided meditation workshops, both in person and online, and doing some visualization groups. I found that all to be really helpful in just taking care of the mind space and the mental space that you go through while you're going through this journey.
Yes, and it's so surprising, Ben. Sometimes I forgot that I'm sick too. I get up and I would clean up my house and I'm like, oh my God, I just did that. And then the energy just start to shrink down, like what? And sometimes I wake up in the morning, my body just feel normal. Like I'm not sick. What's going on with my body?
yeah.
And I'm chemo. So it's like sometimes you forgot that you are sick.
Yes.
Mhm.
I remember after surgery, they said you're not allowed to lift anything over 10 pounds because it's your core. So I remember carrying stuff, and my wife says, that's over 10 pounds. I said, but I'm not using my core. I'm actually using my legs and my arm. So it's fine. So we go in to see the surgeon, and she says, okay, Mr. Perry, you're good to lift over 10 pounds. So the next day I went out and climbed a 60-foot pine tree. And so this is one of my favorite quotes is that, well, you know what? I'd rather be 60 feet up a tree than 6 feet underneath that tree. So there you go. All right. I think if we've hashed all this out, folks, we can, Aaron, we're going to maybe slide it on to you and the questions that we got from our gallery today. I saw quite a few come through.
Yeah, definitely. So just starting in the chat, we have Juliana saying, before your surgery, were you informed by the surgeon or anyone of the possible changes in your lifestyle, such as change in diet, change in bowel habits, and change in strength?
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the above. Yeah,
All of
strength.
the above.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Strength, I think sometimes I say it's from the chemo itself, perhaps, but like I know there's certain things I can't do anymore, but you know what, it's fine. As Dean and I both say, we're still here.
Mhm.
Yeah, we went over all the risks and all the digestive issues that could come up, and could have diarrhea forever. But I mean, that'll be, you're still here. We're still here, right? So,
I love it. There's just yeah, don't care about the diarrhea. I'm still here. Yeah.
And your surgeon definitely should be going through those things with you and giving you like reasonable expectations, not being like, oh, you're gonna bounce back and feel great in a week or something like that. Like if they're saying that, run.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really informed about all the possible side effects, including the potential to develop a hernia, which I did about 3 months ago. Her Whipple was was last June. She's wondering if anyone else has had that.
No, I don't have hernia. I don't have any of those things. No.
No, it didn't have an issues there.
She might have just pushed herself a little bit too much, and she went beyond what she was capable of.
Yeah.
The only side effect I think I would have had, the doctor said it's most likely from the chemo, and most likely I would have got it from being an arborist, climbing and using my hands, but pain in my hands, arthritis or carpal tunnel, I'm not sure which it is, but I get a nerve pain in this hand, my left hand, all the time underneath the thumb. So I don't know. I'm going next week to find out about it. Could be arthritis, could be carpal tunnel, but again, we're still here.
Yeah, a lot of repetitive stuff. I know I have that from doing renos, and my hands are always sore.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
I
I
got
think it's
pain in my hand from chemo. That's
I think
all.
I think that's the big thing. Or it's either that or from knitting all the hats for my friends.
Mhm.
Said I'm a nurse and not sure whether I should tell my patients the truth about what they will be experiencing after their surgery. I do not want to scare them before surgery. So I'm just wondering, should I tell them the truth during my pre-surgery education with them? Should I tell them about the change in diet, the possibility of not gaining weight for a while after surgery, the feeling of fatigue, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I read that earlier and I was thinking as I was listening, I think it's probably best to know maybe some of it or maybe like sugarcoat that a little bit, because if you think you're going to go in and have surgery and you're just going to walk out exactly the way you were 2 years ago, like, you'll have a big surprise. So you're going to have issues. So they talk to you. I know our dietitian came in and said, oh, to recover you need to eat protein, you need this and this and this, but they just give you a sheet, they read it verbatim. So I think planning ahead for a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but for a lot of people it may be a good thing to know it.
yeah.
I would want to know everything.
Me too.
But would you want to sugarcoat it though, or would you
No,
like
not at all. Not at all.
no, well, gotta love it.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
definitely Whipple warriors.
But it's interesting though, because as you're saying, Ben, when you were just getting discharged from the hospital and the dietitian was going through the what you should be eating or what's best for you, I'm not sure if that's when that occurred.
Yeah.
Is that when that happened? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which I got that too, but now I'm eating all the stuff I shouldn't be, that she told me I should eat, that I shouldn't be eating. So everything's now all those fibers that I shouldn't be eating, I should be eating. So all the white bread, the high carbs, the brat diet, right? The white rice, white potatoes, all of those is what I should be having in my diet now versus the healthy grains that we normally push to eat to stay healthy, right? So it's such an individual, I think, thing once the surgery's happened, how your body responds and reacts and what the changes may be to your diet. But I think it's overall good to to know what, you know, what could be in store for you, you know, coming up post Whipple.
And some
sure.
people may need it sugar coated, you know, and we talk about it most a lot of times on Monday nights, is that, you know, whatever, even though I should eat this and this and this, but my stomach just doesn't want it right now. Well, eat whatever you can to keep you going. So if
Yeah.
it's potato chips, like I
Right.
hate to say it,
Yeah.
I eat potato chips, and I love them, but there's times I know I need food and there's nothing else I can put down that makes it feel good. So I have potato chips. I'm sorry, but it's processed food. But, you know, I want to be here so I can say, you know, that I'm still here, right?
Me too, Ben. For now, I eat what I can to keep going, to keep me going
Yeah.
with this chemo. Because sometimes I have appetite, sometimes I don't have any appetite. So, and with this chemo, it let me eat. It's something that I feel to eat. That's what I eat.
Now, Lori, you're on a white diet, I would think, because of the diarrhea.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So once that gets under control, you can start to introduce different foods, I guess, and
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
out where
And you know,
where the line is.
and I deviate now and again just because, like, I have to. I'll have a craving for something that I know is not suggested, but I'll have it.
Have some potato chips.
And I'll pay for it. But you know, I'm paying. It's just been the same. Like, so what? It's like whatever I eat, we have I'm having the same outcomes. So we haven't. So, but yeah. But it'll be interesting to see when I go back on chemo how this is gonna play out in terms of the diarrhea with the chemo and the food. And so we'll see. That's been kind of on my mind past couple of days now, knowing I'm going back on the treatment. How my body's going to react now post Whipple, because before I was, you know, I think I felt a lot more stronger before the surgery. So we'll see how things will go in the next few weeks.
Definitely, that's great. Said, did anyone recommend cold therapy to avoid the neuropathy from oxaliplatin?
I do. When I came home from chemo, I did my feet in ice cold water. Sometimes for 45 minutes, sometimes for half an hour, sometimes I sit there for an hour until the water cool off after I take a shower. But I never dip my fingers in the cold water, so that's why I get the rapid in my fingers.
It was
But
never
my
mentioned.
feet, I do.
Sorry.
And I don't get any rapid in my toes. I don't get it in my toes at all.
It was never mentioned to me, but I wish that it was, because it seems like what Dean is saying, it works. But I did find out from my oncologist, I asked her, what can I take? And she said, try Lyrica. And that seems to work for me. I don't feel a neuropathy right now. I don't know. I'm hopeful that it's not because of the nice weather that's here now, but I have no issues with it at all right now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Were you Lori, or nothing?
No. It wasn't recommended or advised to me at all.
Yeah, and that's same with me here. I remember the first time grabbing something cold and the needles in your fingers and Florinox, but it was only for a day, maybe a day and a half. Other than that, it was fine.
You're going for chemo, Laura, you might want to try it. It works. I'm telling you, it does work.
Yeah. I'll
does.
talk to the oncologist about it. I think I've done a little bit of reading about it, and now that I have neuropathy already, it might not be helpful, but I will definitely ask him about it.
You still have it now?
Yeah, I still have neuropathy in my fingers
Oh.
and in my feet. Yes, yeah.
Try the Lyrica.
Pins and needles. Yeah, Lyrica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give that a shot.
Mine's finally gone in my hands. I have it a little bit in my feet, not as much as it had been. I did find for myself, I use those yoga socks that have the individual toes.
Mhm.
And for some reason, the way that your toes wiggle with another I don't know why, but it helped me. It was kind of distracting my brain, perhaps, from what it was. And then I wore wool socks, because I don't know, again, why it would work for me, but it seemed to work for me, wool socks. So I'd wear the yoga socks for maybe 2 days, and then I'd take them off, put wool socks on, and it was kind of back and forth like that for the first few months. Then eventually, it probably took about 8 months maybe, and then it got less and less and less. And now it's there, but I don't really notice it. You know,
Yeah.
again, we block it out, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah. I've yeah, many times I don't think
Brain
about it.
power, brain power.
That's great. Said I'm sure everyone will have their own perspective on this, but for me, I would always want to know what to expect. I believe it's important to have all the information in order to prepare oneself for the long road ahead. Knowledge supports our intellectual and emotional journey. It could help someone avoid unnecessary worry.
Yeah. Agree.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that that's important. I mean, just because you know that it could happen doesn't mean it will happen, but I think it's
Mm.
better to be prepared than to be
Yeah.
surprised. Said I was told that I would want to know for sure. Juliana said, how is your loved ones feeling knowing you have cancer?
Oh, my family, they were devastated about me having cancer. Even now, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want me to talk about that. They don't want me to talk about planning my funeral. They don't want me to talk about nothing concerning that. So even now, they are still, especially my children, they are still can't believe that I'm going through this, but nobody want me to talk about going to plan my funeral or going to do this or going to do that with anything concerning that. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, there was no funeral talk or anything like that, but it was all just you can beat this, you can do this, and
Yeah.
that's what we're shooting for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I had a sister-in-law. They said, if anybody can beat this, Ben, it's going to be you. And then afterwards, you're like, I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. And I was like, okay, whatever. But
Yeah.
I found friends. I remember just after being diagnosed, we had bought some windows. We were building a new bunkie, and we had to move them around. And someone came over to visit, and they kind of pushed me out of the way and said, "You're not allowed to lift that." And I'm like, "This is before surgery. This is when I was still, well, not only before. This was like October of or November of 21. So just when they said you can't have surgery, I'm like I was just working like 2 weeks ago. Like, well, of course I can keep doing this. Like, get out of my way. Let me lift that. But I found some people kind of like shied away from the topic. They didn't want to talk about it. But then other people who I told outside of family, they were very, very supportive. I'm praying for you. My wife's praying for you, her church group, and on and on and on. So I found that's kind of when you realize how many people you've reached out and maybe affected their lives in some one way or another. Like you realize, I guess I am a pretty good person.
Yeah, yeah, my support system's been pretty good with my family, friends. Although, I kind of watch what I share mostly all the updates with family, but I don't get into some deep conversations that I might with a support group like this, or with some other groups that I may be part of that are going through a similar journey. There's just a lot of heavy stuff that I kind of keep away from with family and friends at this point. So, but yeah.
We made a Ben's update group on Facebook for family and close friends, and then other people started adding other people. Then it just got massive. Everybody wanted to find out and know and keep on track of and support for you. So and again, it's a nice thing to have there that there's so many people got your back. And now and at times when people say to you, if you need anything, I'll help you, sometimes you wonder, is that really true? But then actually in the end it really is. They will bend over backwards to help you. So if people are offering that and you need it, then definitely take them up on it for sure.
Yeah, it was difficult to give that up, because you can't do it, and you've always done it, and so somebody else is doing it for you, and it is quite surprising that they do. Yeah, they say we'll do this for you, and they show up,
Yeah.
But it's really tough to let go of that for me anyway, because I'm quite independent, and
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
just an awful thing to admit to, I guess.
Yeah, that torque wrench is mine. Get away from that.
And then right now too, Jill. So it's like when people have for help, I'm like, Yes, no, yes, I can do this for myself. It's okay.
All right. All right. You're back up, Aaron.
So my mom has pancreatic cancer, which is why I tuned in today, and she has made me so proud in the past 2 years. Like you all have said, being sick is no big deal for her as long as she is still here. You are all an inspiration, and while no one deserves to be sick, your words change the perceptions and lives of so many people for the better. You're bigger heroes than you know.
Oh, thank you. Chill.
Thank you.
Really, really
Oh.
nice, Samantha. Thank you for sharing that. Said, whoops. Oh, before your surgery, did you speak to someone who had gone through the Whipple to learn more about their experience? I see
Oh,
Jenny said no, but did anybody?
No, I checked out quite a few discussion forums. One through Mayo Clinic. There's a great group on Reddit, pancreatic cancer on Reddit, which is it's phenomenal. I got a lot of information from that, and discussion forums, but that would be it in my like my own health team, and that would, yeah. But no other person I know has had Whipple that I hadn't reached out to or found out anyone else that had at that point. But then joining this group, I joined this group just before I got my surgery, so it was probably like December or January. So I definitely did learn some things before that, so about Whipple.
Before it's my health team, and I go on YouTube and find out. I see people who had the Whipple before and their recovery. That's how I get my information.
I found that I didn't know anybody, to be honest with you, who had
Yeah.
pancreatic cancer prior to this. I honestly didn't. But once you are out and you're talking to like a new customer, and I said, oh, I had to sell my business and this, and whatnot. And then you tell them you had pancreatic cancer and why. And they're like, oh, my best friend. And then and so now I'm sure I know like 200 people. Like it's amazing. Like, you don't know, it's not that it's in the closet or anything, it's just that we know, well, everybody knows someone who has cancer, but not specifically this cancer, this cancer, this cancer. But and then until I joined this group, and I didn't realize how important it is to be with like-minded people, I guess, in a way.
Well, it's tough for anybody to understand what you're going through unless you're going through it.
Yeah,
Yes.
again, we're with the warriors,
Yeah.
most of us.
Mm.
Said just like those experiencing the diagnosis, I think the family member also learns that we are stronger than we initially think. Life goes on and you keep fighting together. No.
Yeah.
Sharon said, I have a temporary bile duct stent, 8 months now. I was told I should get a permanent one on capecitabine pills. Just finished round 3, doing well. CT scan good. Tumor shrunk a bit, markers dropping. Doctor talking now about Whipple surgery, so unsure. This scares me as I feel good, almost normal.
The only for me, if I had that situation, knowing what I know now and how aggressive pancreatic cancer can be, I I would still have surgery, but I wouldn't even think about it even after. And what I went through, there's times I forget, and then Karen brings it to my memory. Oh, you were sick during the gemcitabine and whatnot, but in the end, I'd rather be here than be constantly worrying, and we still have scanxiety, but I think I'd be more worried about it that it's there already, and like how much faster is it gonna grow. So, for me, I would definitely say, yeah, let's get it out. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like considering it's just been a couple of months and things are back already. And I have thought about that. Like, was it worth it? Has this been, should I just not have had it? But you know what? The big tumor's out, the majority of it. So yeah, I don't regret my decision of getting of having the surgery and then going to the next steps with that. And my surgeon also was very, optimistic that treatments have come a really long way. And, when we discussed the pathology report, he said, if this was, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it'd be a very different conversation. But now with the treatments and the chemo and the improvements that, it's the odds are looking better and better all the time. So, it's No regrets.
Mine come back 2 years after the Whipple surgery. After a CT scan, they find it in my lungs. So, and then after another CT, a PET scan, they find it in my bones. So, as Lori said, there is treatment out there for you to be better and better. So I think I'm doing much better because I don't have the pain that I have in my groin and my side. I only have the pain at my left side sometimes. And if I lift anything heavy, I have the pain in my back, which I try not to do. But sometimes my grandson came over and you can't do but help and lift him up and kiss him. So that's trigger off the pain in my back too.
That's a good pain to have, though, Dean.
That's a good pain to have because it's so adorable.
That's for sure.
I can't wait to see the other one. So that's a good pain to have, Ben. So that's where my the cancer came back, which doctor said it was there before. Because I don't have, it's so funny, I don't have the cancer in my pancreas anymore. My life would be so good right now if I didn't have it in my lungs and my bones. So and that's where all I come after. The doctor said it was there before. They didn't see it when they're going to do the surgery. I think it was metastasized to my lungs before. So from my lungs to my bones. So,
Well, I'm not sure if they told me I had like cancer again if it came back or whatever. I'm not sure. That would be a tougher decision than the original one of saying, yeah, let's do something about it. I don't know. I mean, if life has changed this much already because of surgery and cancer, chemo, I mean, how much tougher is it going to get if you have to do something else? Is it going to be, how much worse? So I don't know. That would be a decision I'd have to make at that time. I'm not sure what I would do yet. I might just take the route that Pam took and just say, it's been a good run. I'm not sure.
I know I've talked to another friend about it one time. He had a different cancer. And I had just said to him, I said, like, his grandkids had just left, and he said, I don't think I'm ever going to do this again. And I was like, well, why? And he told me, and I didn't know much about chemo at the time and whatnot. And I said, but you can tolerate it. He said, yes, but I don't want to do it. And I said, oh, so the grandkids, I said that it's kind of sad in a way. And Dean just said, picking up your grandson. So for me, I don't have grandchildren yet, but if that were to come around and I had the option of being able to hold them a little bit longer to give them some more memories of their grandpa, I would definitely do it. But everybody's different. But from my perspective, I would do what I could just so I could hold that, yes, for sure.
Juliana said, very inspiring to hear the sharing from all of you. Thank you. Pam said, Lori, can you maintain your weight considering all the diarrhea you have?
Yeah, I'm being able to maintain it at about 135, 140. Kind of fluctuates between those two. So I haven't gone below 135. I think when I had my surgery, I was at 155 when I went in. So I've dropped since then, but been able to maintain presently right now. So yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. If there's any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself. I see Jenny just said, thanks everyone. I have to get going now. Wishing you all the best of health and happiness on your journeys. Thanks so much for coming, Jenny. It was great to have you. Hopefully we'll see you soon. And Claudia said, I'm so proud of you all, the way you share the way you look at your situation and that you are still here. Oh, that's really nice, Claudia. Yeah. Great group. All right, if there are no other questions, then we can go ahead and sign off. Thank you everyone so much for coming. Thank you so much, Ben, Dean, Jill, Lori. You all did a phenomenal job, and I think this was a really interesting conversation with a lot of information that people can take in, and I think the patient perspective is just so important to share with others. So thank you all so much for your time today. It was really, really wonderful. Thank you everyone so much for coming. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their weekend, and we will talk soon.